Hi guys, and welcome to another video lesson. Today we're going to be taking a look at some FLAM based fills. FLAMs are part of the rudiment list, the Percussive Art Society, or PAS for short, rudiment list. There are 40 rudiments in total, and they're broken up into families: rolls, paradiddles, flams, and drags. So there's a number of different FLAM-based rudiments available. We're going to look at a standard FLAM today and how that can be added into existing fills. So, quick recap, FLAMs, they are not two notes, they are not two movements. A kind of galloping sound. The way you get a FLAM is by moving your sticks to a different height and then playing them at the same time. So I've got one hand higher than the other and I'm going to bring them down at the same time. But because one's got a head start, it's going to get to that drum before the other one. So it's not quite two notes and it's not quite one note. It's the closest thing we as drummers have to expanding a note, to sustaining a note. We can't actually press the drums down and make them last any longer, but this is as close as we can get to that. So today's fills are all going to be 16th note or semi-quaver based, and we're going to throw in some linear elements as well. We're kind of bending the rules. Linear, as we already know, is one thing at a time. Well, by throwing in FLAMs, technically, that's still one thing at a time, isn't it? I'm not playing unison notes, but I am using a combination of hands and feet. So strictly speaking, we are still in linear territory, but adding FLAMs to linear patterns is what we're all about today. So let's start with a 16th note pattern, and I'm going to FLAM the first note. Now, really important, when you play FLAMs, they do not change the original sticking pattern. What do I mean by that? Okay, well, let's take a bar of semi-quavers on the snare drum in singles. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Lefties turn all of the stickings for today's lesson around. I remembered to mention lefties, I'm very happy about that. So the pattern is right, left, right, left, right, left. If I want to put a FLAM on beat 1, that would be my right hand. So the FLAM becomes a right-handed FLAM, which means the left hand is closer to the drum and the right hand is further away. And the rest of the pattern stays the same. So instead of right, left, I'm now going to be playing FLAM, left, right, left. You can say the word FLAM, or you can just carry on counting right, left, because it is a right-handed FLAM. Me personally, I tend to say FLAM just to remind myself that I'm playing a FLAM rather than a single right. The important thing here is that we are not changing the original sticking pattern. A good way of thinking about it is tracing paper. If you imagine you've got something written down like right, left on a piece of paper, and then you put your tracing paper over the top and draw your FLAM in, what's written underneath the tracing paper stays exactly the same, no matter what you write on top. And you can always take the tracing paper off, and you've got what you had underneath all along. That was a very long example, very long-winded way of explaining FLAMs. I hope that all makes sense. Let me play it for you now so you know what I've been rambling on about. Right, now we've got our FLAM pattern sorted, we're going to orchestrate that. We're not going to worry about the linear element just yet, we're just going to concentrate on orchestrating what we've got so far. It's me, so it's going to be a triangle-based pattern. Anyone who's been having lessons with me for a while knows now that I'm a big fan of the triangle. So we're going to go FLAM on the snare, left on tom 1, right, left on tom 3. And we're going to loop that round and round, 70 beats per minute. Here we go. Okay, so let's add a bass drum in to make this a linear element. So I'm going to take out the last tom 3 from that pattern and put the bass drum in its place. So I'm going to go FLAM, right-handed FLAM on the snare, left on tom 1, right hand on tom 3, and then bass drum to finish that, and then loop that round and round and round. So here it comes at 70 beats per minute. Right, let's put that in a 3-1 resolve as well. Now be careful, this fill ends in a bass drum. We've seen this before. So when you end a fill with a bass drum, you're going to start your groove with a bass drum as well. So you've got that dum, you've got that double note as you finish the fill and go into the groove. Be careful not to play a right or left hand with the bass drum at the end of the fill, but make sure you do play your hand and foot together on beat 1 of the groove. So it should be foot and then hand and foot as you come back round to the groove. Here it is at 70 beats per minute, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so now we're going to put flams and linear patterns together to create our fill. I'll play the whole fill for you now, and then I'll break it down in pieces and explain it properly, and we'll take it a piece at a time. But here's the whole fill on the snare drum and the bass drum, so you get an idea of what we're aiming for. So that looked quite scary, quite complicated. Okay, let's break it down and work it out a piece at a time. I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to start with, well, the first half, because that's the best place to start. Right, so the first half, we've got flam, kick, flam, left, right, kick, flam, kick. Now, that's quite a lot of flams and kicks and lefts and right going on there. You could break it down into 16th notes. So you could think of it in terms of flam, kick, flam, left, and then right kick, flam, kick. If you wanted to, that's fine. For me, I find that quite complicated. You could probably hear the cogs grinding away. As I said, I had to really think about that. For me, I think of this as 2, 4, 2. You've got flam, kick, that's your 2. Then you've got flam, left, right, kick, that's a 4. Then you've got flam, kick, that's another 2. So for me, it's just easier to break that down 2, 4, 2 than it is to think of it as 1 eander, 2 eander, and work out where all those flams and kicks and lefts and right go. It doesn't matter. If you prefer doing it, counting it in 16th notes, do it that way, that's fine. If you prefer counting it 2, 4, 2 like I do, that's fine too. If you can think of another way of counting it, absolutely fine. The whole point of counting is it helps you play it. So it doesn't matter how you count it, as long as that counting helps you play it properly. Wow, that was a lot of talking, lots of countings and flams and rights and lefts. I will stop rambling and I will play that first half so you can hear what we're talking about. If you need to slow this down, pause the video and work on this first half slowly, that's absolutely fine. It's a very tricky pattern. I'll play it first now for you at 70. I'll rest beats 3 and 4 and then join in with me when you can. Wow, lots of talking. Drums. Okay, so moving on to the second half of the bar. This half of the bar does actually lean itself quite nicely to counting in 16th notes. Flam, left, right, kick, 3 eander. Flam, kick, flam, left, 4 eander. That's fine. Or you could count this as 4, flam, left, right, kick, there's your 4. Flam, kick, there's 2. Flam, left, there's another 2. So you could break this down in 2 different ways, just like we did with the first half. Whichever one works best for you is absolutely fine. I'll rest beats 1 and 2 and I'll play this second half at 70 beats per minute for you. Okay, let's put that back together and play the entire fill. Okay, so let's orchestrate that fill. Now you may decide that you really like the fill just straight out of the box, snare and bass drum only, and that's fine. If you want to use that as a fill on its own, there's nothing wrong with fills that only use the snare and the bass drum. But we're going to throw in a different orchestration just to add some variety. Okay, so what is it that we're going to orchestrate? Well, do you remember earlier in the lesson we played FLAM, left on tom 1, right on tom 3, and then the kick? We're going to take that pattern from earlier. Yes, all these things that we're doing are connected, believe it or not, and we're going to throw it into that fill. So I talked about the fill being grouped in 2s and 4s, and I was thinking of it as 2, 4, 2, and then 4, 2, 2. That was my way of making sense of the fill. Well, every time that 4 crops up, FLAM, left, right, foot, I'm going to use our orchestration that we just talked about. FLAM, tom 1, tom 3, foot. Everything else will stay on the snare and the bass drum. So this looks scary and it looks quite complicated, and it is tricky, don't get me wrong, but in terms of the actual idea behind it, it's pretty straightforward. It's adding in, well, 2 extra toms into a pattern that was already there. I'll play it for you at 70 beats per minute so you can see what I'm talking about. Again, if you need to slow this down and work on it slower and then come back and join in with me, that's absolutely fine. Here we go. Let's stick that in a 3-1 resolve. I've gone for a standard quaver groove. Again, feel free to change the groove to whichever one you want. Here we go. So that's it for today's lesson, guys. A quick look at adding flams into fills. You can add flams to anything. As I said earlier, think of them as tracing paper. They go over the top of what you were already playing. Today we've looked at adding them to a linear idea. Why not go back and look at some of your other fills that you've studied in the past, even some of the fills that you studied way back right when you started. Try adding the flams over the top. Remember, the sticking will stay exactly the same no matter what you do with the flams. Have some fun with this, experiment, see what you can come up with. I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson. If you've got any questions, feel free to get in touch. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Take care, stay safe, and enjoy your drumming, guys.